Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a load of rubbish. I want to specifically address the issue of fly tipping or illegal dumping in Portugal. Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, for example, the ones that I did on rural life in Portugal, I am the kind of person who loves to go for walks with my dog mainly through the forest every morning, and if it's not too hot, every evening as well. And I really appreciate the environment that I can find, the natural environment that I can find in the forest. You know, I go there and there are no people basically. I really love that. I'm walking along forest paths surrounded by nature every day. It's just very green, very lush. I see wildlife. Maybe I'll make a separate video about that sometime. But it's a really pleasant environment, very natural. The air is pure, the sky is blue, well, when it's not misty anyway, and it's nice, and I appreciate it very much. However, there is something about walking through the forest that really annoys me. I mean, it really gets my goat. And that is that wherever you go, you're not very far from a pile of rubbish that somebody has chosen to deposit there, presumably highly illegally. I mean, I think almost certainly highly illegally. In the UK, we call this fly tipping. In the US, it's known as illegal dumping, but it's exactly the same thing. It basically amounts to people who have some rubbish. Usually it could be construction rubbish, it could be an old mattress, an old sofa, broken furniture, electronics, garden waste, whatever, and they don't want to dispose of it properly, probably because it costs money or it's just inconvenient for them to do so. So they take it to a place which hopefully is secluded. Actually, in the UK, sometimes just somebody else's garden. But in Portugal, anyway, it seems to be the forest is the chosen secluded place. And they chuck it there. They just dump it out of the back of their pickup or out of the back of their van or whatever it is they're using. And then they just make off into the night, happily having discarded their burden. Now, obviously, this isn't ideal as a solution, and it's highly illegal. It's subject to fines in most municipalities of 250 to 1,500 euros per person per incident. And that's just for the incorrect disposal of construction and garden waste. I'm not sure about other types. Maybe it's the same. But nonetheless, it's extremely common. So whatever deterrent effect these laws are having, it's clearly not enough. I'm playing on the video now lots of little clips that I have collected, and I did all this in basically over the course of 2 mornings along different routes. It's not a difficult thing to find because there's frankly just so much of it. The most common kind is some form of construction waste, your basic rubble. Essentially, pieces of tile, broken toilets, and like sinks or whatever. It's difficult to distinguish. You've got the old tires, some children's toys in there sometimes. I thought that was an odd one. And garden waste, people just throw their garden waste in. Stuff like succulent plants or cacti or whatever. Obviously, it's difficult to dispose of. Maybe if it's thorny, you can't really put it in bags very easily. So chucking it in the forest would be the best solution in some people's eyes. Now, there are actually, proper set procedures for dealing with this, and let's take a look at what those are. Just to say a quick word on how waste should properly be disposed of. It's difficult to find some kind of national legislation on it, but there are various Câmara municipals that have information on this topic. So in terms of construction and demolition waste, which is definitely the major component of what I see around me in the forest, if you have that and if you're not requiring a license to do this work, so if you're basically just an individual doing renovations on your property, then the council, you can call them up and they'll supply you with a 1 cubic meter bag, known as a big bag, and you can fill that up with the waste and they will come and take that away for you for free. Or you can take it to a recycling centre which is designated by the council and you can dispose of it. If you have quantities over this amount, however, which a lot of people would during a renovation, you have to pay to hire a skip. and it will cost money. It's not cheap, it's inconvenient. So you can get the picture there. You can see that improper disposal of this waste carries fines between 250 and 1500 euros, at least in Sintra. Talking about green waste, waste from the garden, it's a very similar story here where in the Camera municipality Sisal, I think that's how it would be pronounced, and it's basically the same. If you have garden waste up to 1 cubic meter, it doesn't require any kind of prior consent or anything like that. But if it is above 1 cubic meter, then you have to request a pickup by the municipal council, and you have to make sure it's put into the correct bags that they will give you. And there are certain regulations regarding the dimensions and the weight. Every bag has to be under 10 kilos, and it can't be more than 1.5 meters long and 40 centimeters wide if it's branches and stuff. There are a lot of rules that have to be complied with, and it's quite troublesome. If it's over 8 cubic meters, you have to hire a skip from the municipality, and they will come and collect that for you, but there's a fee, and it's basically 94.59 euros plus VAT, which would take up to like maybe 115 euros, something around that. Or you can take it to a recycling centre yourself, which obviously you're going to have to get a truck or whatever and take it there, and it might be quite far away. I really don't know how many of them there are. So it's not simple, but there are established rules for dealing with it. And just as with construction waste, there are fines for the improper disposal of green waste from the garden as well. In terms of why people do it, I think it just comes down to laziness, essentially. Laziness and wanting to save money. I mean, doing it the proper way for small quantities of waste, whether it's a construction project that didn't require licensing, or someone tending to their garden and cutting off branches, etc. It is possible to do. It's just a hassle. But you can do it for free in most cases by calling the council and arranging pickups and things like that. They'll drop off bags. But if you have a lot of waste, it's not going to work for you. Either you're going to have to take it far, far away to some eco-point recycling centre, or you're going to have to pay for a skip. And of course, people don't want to pay. People don't want to pay over 100 euros in rural Portugal for a skip. They'd much rather put it on the back of their pickup and dump it in the middle of the forest in some secluded area, and no one will ever discover it. So, I mean, I think that those are the fundamental reasons why people are doing it, to avoid payment, and also just to make their life easier. Unfortunately, it has an immensely detrimental impact on the environment, at least in terms of the beauty of the environment. When you're walking along a forest trail, which is the kind that a car could get down, you will see lots of heaps of rubble and stuff like that as a result of this practice. I really, really wish that the community and the government could get together and do something to put in place better policies to allow people to get rid of more waste more easily. For example, if the council picked up a larger quantity of waste for free and all you had to do was call them and they would come like a couple of days later, I think that the vast, vast majority of people would do that. Definitely, rather than do it themselves in the middle of the forest, which is more hassle. But if you make it hard for people, if you charge them money, and if you impose all kinds of restrictions on the weight and the length and how many bags you can have and all that kind of stuff, of course people are going to try and avoid it because it's just a hassle and it's expensive. So I think that although I would never excuse these people who are fly tipping, I think it's atrocious, and they definitely deserve to be punished for it. I think some measure of responsibility does rest with municipal authorities, who have to radically improve their collection processes for non-domestic waste, for things like garden waste, for things like tires, for things like construction waste that people definitely do have when they're doing projects in rural areas around their home and in their garden. And I think if those processes were amended, things would revolutionize in terms of the amount of stuff that you see dumped in the forest. It's not a phenomenon which is limited to Portugal. It is something which definitely occurs in the UK and in the US. And it's just a feature of the modern world, but it's something that I think we really have to work together on. as members of communities and as voters in municipal elections to encourage municipalities to have more sensible policies, and also to encourage residents to follow the law and to try to dispose of their waste in a way which is more socially responsible. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that video/rant about fly tipping or illegal dumping in Portugal. I will see you all in the next video.